Hi guys, it's Jeanet and welcome back to my channel. Also, if you're new here, I post new videos every week. So I already had 2 videos prepped for the next 2 weeks, but when I looked at the way that they meshed with my channel, I realized that I didn't want to post them. So anyway, the point being, I watched a lot of BookTube recently and I ended up deciding to do my own spin on the reading 1-star reviews on books that I love video. So I'm going to be doing 1-star reviews of adaptations that I love, and I am so freaking terrified, but yeah, we're gonna do it and let's just hope for the best, even though that's not really possible. Okay, so I have my laptop over here, and yeah, I'm not a normal human being. I cannot, for specific reasons, use my phone. So yeah, I am going to be using my laptop to read the comments that are going to be torturing me. So here we go. Many viewers of the film applaud its faithfulness to the books. However, they miss that while the film includes much of the book in it, more than is necessary in fact, it lacks the central story. That is, the story of a young boy who has suddenly had his wildest dreams come true, and who now must deal with a newfound celebrity status, I'm assuming they mean, his amazing magical heritage, and most of all, day-to-day life in Hogwarts with his friends and enemies. The movie is more preoccupied with populating Hogwarts with ghosts and moving staircases than it is with characters of any depth. Everybody from the book, Harry included, suffers from a serious lack of on-screen development, and as a consequence, the story lurches ponderously from event to event, without the through line that strong character development would bring. I, for one, am not easily impressed by effects, no matter how impressive, especially when they are, word I cannot pronounce, substitutes for a real strength of story, such as this character. Okay, there's a lot to unpack. Okay, so I, for one, think that there are 2 ways that a story can be strong. It can be strong in plot, or it can be strong in character, and if it's a fantastic story, it can be strong in both. Just because it's not strong in character doesn't mean it's a weak story. But that aside, because yeah, that for me is like, damn. But that aside, I also don't think that that is the case here. I really love the first movie as an adaptation because, as the comment pointed out, it is very good adaptation wise, but I also love it for the fact that it introduces us to a new world and everything like that. And as I was reading this, I already thought of like very small but very significant moments in the movie that shows the characters' progress. So if you go with Harry, for example, there's just so many small times that, like, the moment he sat with Hedwig, just showing his loneliness and his kind of separateness from the magic of the castle, for me that was a very strong scene. And then you look at Hermione, who starts off without any real friends and thinking that school is the most important thing, and then you have her at the end of the movie say, you know, there's books and cleverness, but there are more important things like friendship and bravery. I mean, that already is a massive leap from the beginning to the end, I would think. I mean, this is a very plot-driven story, but the characters aren't badly developed, they're just new. I don't know, I don't see it that way at all. I think for what they had to work with, they did a very good job, because you also have to take into consideration that the main characters of the story are kids, and normally, and I don't want to stereotype, but normally kids' acting isn't fully developed yet, obviously, because they're kids, they haven't had all the experience that someone of say 30 might have had. So, you know, you have to take that into consideration, and for what they had to work with, and the fact that this is the first book in a series, so you don't want to have all the character development take place in like the span of 1 movie that is supposed to take place over 7 years. I think they did very well. I don't think for a movie that's focused on kids and, you know, marketed towards an audience of kids. I think the emotional progress and development that the characters made and the way that it was showcased was done well enough. I really don't think that it deserved a 1-star review for that, and I think that if the person was so offended by this, then maybe it just wasn't the movie for them. I don't see how you could do more than they did in that movie. But yeah, maybe that's just me. Then we have utter rubbish. This film was, to put it simply, rubbish. The child actors couldn't act, as can be seen by Harry's supposed surprise on learning he's a wizard. I'm a wizard? Is said with such indifference, you'd think he's not surprised at all. I've never read the books, and this film did nothing to make me want to read them. The only spell this cast over me was one to get me out of the room as quickly as possible. If you want to see a decent book-made film, watch Lord of the Rings, or possibly the sequel to this, which I actually thought was pretty good. Okay, there's surprisingly a lot to unpack in that one. Number one, fair enough in terms of the child actors. If it isn't your thing, it isn't your thing. I think they did pretty well for 11-year-olds, but that might just be because I've seen a lot worse. I rewatched it quite a few times and I still think the acting was pretty decent for 11-year-olds. So yeah, but I don't think it annoyed me as much as it obviously annoyed this person. But on the other hand, I don't think it's fair of him to say that this is a bad adaptation or that you should go watch Lord of the Rings if you want to see a good adaptation if he hasn't read the books. Because then he can't judge the way that it was adapted from book to movie. If you don't want to like the movie on the credit that it bored you and that the child acting wasn't good, fair enough, just don't comment on the way that it was adapted because you can't speak on that if you haven't read it. Okay, so now we're moving on to Sherlock, the BBC 2010 TV series that was written by Mark Gatiss and Stephen Moffat. And yeah, hopefully they'll be returning. However, I do want to say this is the first of 2 of the adaptations that I know are kind of like questionable as adaptations for most people. They vary quite a lot from the source material, but I feel like it's fair to classify them as I love them because they're adaptations, because it's the way that they adapted the story that I love so much. I have to stress I do not feel the love that I feel for the series for the 4th season. I think as it stands at the moment, the 4th season is questionable. So I have excluded any negative reviews about the 4th season from this because I feel the same. So yeah, we're just gonna do season 1 to 3 and that's gonna be it. I was expecting so much from the show, but it's awful. The dialogues are painful, full of quotes coming from Schwarzenegger movies. Also, poor choices of a soundtrack. The acting seems forced in every scene, maybe because of the poor script trying so hard to present the characters and be funny, cool, clever. I only watched the pilot and I'm going to stop there. The episode is an hour and a half long, but it doesn't keep your attention for that long. 1 out of 10 for sure. But I suppose that I am the exception because everybody loves Sherlock. So if you want to try, go ahead, but do not create expectations. I want to believe in it, but unfortunately I was not able to do so. No, that's not, no. How? No, like, I don't know what to say to this. It's just like, clearly this person has such a different opinion from what I feel about this that I can't argue it, because like, no, like, the soundtrack is wonderful. What are you talking about? Okay. Yeah, no, I thought the soundtrack was amazing. I watched a video on the soundtrack that if I can I'll leave a link down below. It's like, it was mind-blowing to see how much effort and thought was put into the soundtracks. I mean, I know soundtracks are generally custom made for things and they are meant to have meaning and everything, but it was just mind-blowing to see how well thought out the soundtracks were. And I totally don't agree with the script. I think, like, the script writing for Sherlock is one of my favorites or most well done script writing things that I thought I'd ever seen. That was very eloquently put. But yeah, I just, like, this person's opinion is so very different from mine. I kind of, I'm kind of blown away. I can't. Yeah, no, I don't agree at all. I think the characters were very well done because they are the characters as you knew them in like the 1800s, but just like brought into this century and given the same backstory but in this context. And I just think the acting was so well done and everything just works so well. I don't get it. Okay, we're moving on. There's no use lingering on this one. I guess I'm in the minority here, but I miss Jeremy Brett. The new Jim Moriarty gives me indigestion. It looks like a Jello from some of those 1920 movies that said the characters had to be oily and greasy. There are some things that can't be modernized, like Shakespeare. Hope ACD doesn't see this from afar. He would not rest in peace. The Hound of Baskerville really was a disaster. They lost all the concept of their original story. I went to bed after the first 13 minutes. Basil Rathbone's version is the classic all should be measured against. This series is trying too hard to be a hip modern show. Next, Sherlock will have a girlfriend. Yeah, I think that's kind of what I was trying to say with my kind of disclaimer thing earlier. Is yeah, the adaptation of Sherlock in the Sherlock BBC wasn't very loyal in terms of the plots and stories. In terms of the characters, I think they were amazing. So yeah, I can't fault this person for that. I think if you want an exact duplicate of the books, Sherlock's not for you, unfortunately. If you want a great memento to Sherlock Holmes, Sherlock's for you. So yeah, I think what I so much enjoyed in this is the clever nods they give to the original story while also doing their own thing. Okay, I have to read this one to you. I think it's a joke. I hope it's a joke, but it's just hilarious. I need to read it. How to Train Your Dragon offers no practical training information on dragons. None. 0 stars. To be honest, I am not impressed. The title clearly suggests that instructions would be provided on how I can train my dragon. Clearly this was just marketing hype and false advertising. I am surprised that others have given it a positive review. Surely I am not the only person who thinks that a book titled How to Train Your Dragon would offer at least some practical training information. Terribly disappointed. I would like my money back. Please let this be a joke. I love this. Okay, anyway, moving on to the more morbid things. Okay. Nothing we haven't seen before. What? How did the rubbish get to number 156 on the IMDb charts, ahead of classic movies such as Ben-Hur? Must be a bunch of monkeys voting. Excuse me. My uncle was a monkey. Anyway, okay. As soon as I heard the Scottish accent of the adults and then inexplicably the kids speaking with American accents, I knew I would hate this movie. Okay, fair point. At least try and make it somewhat realistic, yeah, because dragons are so realistic. So I can suspend a minuscule amount of disbelief. It's a movie about dragons. You're not supposed to have a minuscule amount of disbelief. If you want a minuscule amount of disbelief, go watch a non-fictional based documentary, because you have to still suspend some disbelief on that. You can't have a minuscule amount of disbelief for a fantasy story. Okay, anyway. But no, they decided to go with the stupid accents instead. Very predictable too. It's a typical kids movie, therefore zero suspense and zero surprise. The Incredibles is 10 times better than this, yet is nowhere in the IMDb top 250. Go figure. I will admit, The Incredibles is an awesome movie. I'm going to be doing a thing about that soon. I know I'm a bit behind, but anyway. But that doesn't lessen the awesomeness of How to Train Your Dragon. So, yeah. I kind of just wonder why this upset this person so much. Is it really just the accents? Because if that's the only thing that bothered you, then I don't think that's enough to give it a 1 out of 10 review. Unless like that's a personal pet peeve, and then count your bias, because that's not the only thing that's in the story. Yeah, no, I just, like, I think this was an emotionally driven movie, so the suspense was in the emotion and like the development between the father and son's bond. I don't think it has the typical action movie suspense that you might expect from it. So yeah, I don't know, maybe that's kind of just, I don't want to say flew over the person's head, but just wasn't the person's cup of tea. Maybe they want the more typical kind of suspense that you see in something like The Incredibles. Way too high rating. Okay. I think this deserves a rating of 7. Gave it a 1 because the rating was way too high in my opinion. What kind of awful person are you? Damn. Okay, anyway, when I watched it, I liked it. Good animation, that's the best about this flick. To be honest, it's not that exciting. The soundtrack is what you'd expect it to be, nothing new, innovative. So, excellent film for your kids or for an adult who wants some excellent time wasting. Okay. But nothing exciting, innovating, surprising. If you're looking for something to rock your world, there's a lot of better animations out there. Try Howl's Moving Castle, Princess Monaco.
Hello darkness, my old friend.
It's just weird how people seem to think that the only value that a movie has is the value that they place upon it. So because the animation is the only thing that's great for them, that's the only thing that's great about this movie. The emotion in this is fantastic. What are you talking about? It's just the connection that you can so clearly see in the characters is just mind-boggling. The animation for this is good. It's good in the sense of just being like good, solid animation, but it's also good because of the way that they got the mannerisms of like Toothless to be so awe-inspiring that you feel the connection with that dragon. I wanted a pet dragon for years. I still want a pet dragon. Can I please have a pet dragon? But anyway, it's just like the emotion invoked by this animation, the way that they animated it is awe-inspiring, and the music that goes with that and the script writing for that and everything just flows very well. I mean, yeah, Princess Monaco, Howl's Moving Castle, you'll see, like, just give it a moment, but like, those are amazing, but they're not the same at all. I don't understand how he can equate them together, like, it's, you know, clearly I'm missing something with that review. Okay, so the next one is Sakurada Reset. It's an anime that was adapted from a light novel, and I adore this so much. I think it's a fantastic anime. I wouldn't go as far as to say the greatest anime I've ever seen, because I want to keep my options open, but I think it is up there. It's at least second place. So yeah, I think it's an amazing anime, but I showed it to my one friend and he was kind of iffy about it for like 6 episodes. I'm well aware that this is one of those series that's like really, you either love it or you hate it, or you haven't given it a proper chance. This anime is absolutely terrible beyond anything I've ever seen. Not only is it more boring than watching paint dry, it is trying to become a new level of trash, and each episode just keeps one-upping the previous one in doing so. Okay. Every single character in this show is extremely boring, lifeless and robotic, has absolutely no human emotion, and makes illogical decisions for no reason. The characters have had zero character development over the last 13 episodes I have seen, even less than Sword Art Online, which, as far as I'm concerned, takes a mastermind to pull off. The plot is inconsistent, makes no sense, and many important things are not explained properly. The forced melancholy mood on top of everything just serves to make the show more painful to get through. I really didn't experience it like that. I think, like, I experienced it in kind of a Studio Ghibli type vibe. I feel like a lot of anime these days are either like super dark, and then the other trend is in like the completely opposite direction of everything is so overplayed and dramatic. But yeah, so this for me was just like a nice contrast to that. It wasn't this like preppy female lead or this pervy male lead. It was just people doing their thing, not overreacting on anything, not being super out there in the unbelievable way that, you know, typical anime series are. It was just more pulled back, more controlled, and that for me was something that I enjoyed a lot, because then the moments that you do see the emotion shine through, it feels more genuine. It feels like it carries more weight. I do understand kind of what they mean in terms of roboticness, but if you watch the series, each person's roboticness is explained. I know some people had trouble connecting with the protagonist. I feel like he isn't robotic, he's just withdrawn. And then you have the female protagonist, and as far as I could tell, I kind of felt like she was a bit, what do you call it? That she might have been a bit on the autism scale. She's just very, like, she struggles to understand humans and the way their minds work and so on. And that connection between the male lead and the female lead, even though this isn't a romance, felt just so pure and beautiful and uncomplicated to me. And then it just, I don't know, I didn't perceive it that way at all. I didn't think the plot was inconsistent either, and a lot of people were like, but nothing's making sense, everything feels so inconsequential. And that was really strange for me, because what they basically did is, it's a sequential, you know, it's a serial series, so each episode does its own thing, but then in the end it services an overall arc and everything starts coming together like pieces of a puzzle. So I feel like what I'm guessing is this person probably gave up, and I do feel sorry for him that he wasted 13 episodes, because I know that can be very frustrating and so on, and I'm sorry that he didn't enjoy it, because I do think that if something didn't catch you by 13 episodes, then it's not the right series for you. And yeah, I think if you were to watch this, kind of go in with the expectations of Charlotte, but with a longer payout. So I would say binge watch this, because you need to remember what happens in each episode for everything to make sense at the end, and give it a fair chance. Okay, then the last one is Howl's Moving Castle, which is kind of why I giggled when I heard it referenced earlier. I think it's like my favorite Studio Ghibli movie, if not paired exactly with Laputa. Both of them are incredible. But yeah, so let's see what's going on. Belongs in the toilet with many other crappy movies. ick, this movie was so stupid. The only good thing about it was the animation, sort of. The story was so bizarre. Is this seriously what Japanese kids enjoy for entertainment? That was kind of insulting. Anyway, here is the storyline. Sophie, who is always looking for attention and sympathy by saying she is ugly, makes friends with a fairy wizard, really, named Howl, and he really does act gay. Oh, I saw this person is disgusting. Okay. She then is attacked by the Witch of the Waste, who is very fat and becomes old. Then Sophie climbs aboard Howl's moving castle and becomes his cleaning lady, helping him with his insert shocking music hair, bad hair days, and becoming a little voice who has a beard, mother figure, la la la, everything is happy and the world is good and I can't wait for the movie to end. Please don't see this is dumb. Oh my that was really rude. Like, no, this is not the way you write a review. I mean, if you didn't like the plot, say you didn't like the plot because everything seemed a bit basic to you. I don't know. But just, this is so insulting. The fact that you're like, oh, Hal seems a bit gay. Like, what? I thought we were over trying to use gay as a freaking insult. How? Oh my so. It just, and your plot's on me. Okay. Oh, there's too much to unpack here. Okay. So, firstly, I can understand why people might find Sophie slightly annoying. I actually thought it was very interesting. She was one of the few female leads that I didn't find frustrating. Most of Studio Ghibli's female leads are in my good books. Because, yeah, I think it was so interesting because you have her, like, complaining and feeling sorry for herself because she's not in her own mind pretty enough, and then you have her become old and now she has to adapt to the life as a 90-year-old woman, and suddenly everything that she thought so important seems insignificant, and she can be at peace with herself because she's not constantly competing with her own mentality. And I loved it. I loved the journey of seeing her grow in her mental strength, of seeing her move past all the obstacles that she sets up for herself. I felt it was a great way to show character developments. The story for me was very interesting. I enjoyed the fact that, like, Hal was meant to be this very fearsome, very, like, aggressive and, like, demon of your worst nightmares type of thing, and then you meet him and he's just like, I don't want to say he's a sweetheart, he's a freaking coward, but he is pathetic in the best way. I don't know, it's just, it was different. I really like that, and I think just the way this person criticized it made his criticisms feel invalid to me because they weren't well done. They weren't done in good taste. He kind of felt like he was lashing out. I think that also the way he summarized it was just like he was trying to hit the most insults that he could possibly cram into every single thing that he was explaining, and that just seems in really poor taste. I would have respected his opinion a lot more if he had done it coherently, reasonably, and with a bit more clarity. So with that being said, I'm gonna totally disregard this review. Okay, so that was exhausting if I'm honest, but I do think I prefer YouTube videos, and that might sound strange, but basically what I just mean is in YouTube videos, if I watch a review and it's a review that's at odds with how I felt about a movie, then at least you can look at what they're saying and you can kind of compare it with your own experience. So they would typically say something like, oh, maybe the soundtrack didn't work for them, it felt like it was going against what the director was trying to convey, or you know, they wish they would have focused more on this and not so much on this, or you know, something that's tangible that you can grab onto and you can compare your own opinion. So you can be like, okay, well, I actually like the soundtrack, so that's fine, that's not going to bother me. Or, oh wow, okay, so there's like graphic violence and oh, that's not something I like, so I'll keep that in mind, maybe that'll ruin the experience for me. So something that's not constructive necessarily, but that is critical and that is reasonable and that is inoffensive, that isn't there to hurt the director or insult the director, but is there to help the audience. And a lot of these didn't really feel like that. They felt kind of malicious, like, you know, the person watched it, they were angry and they wanted to express that anger. I hope my frustration amused you, because yeah, that was so bad. I don't know how, maybe I'll be the frustrated one next time in terms of like looking at people complimenting movie adaptations that I hate and then being like, why would you like this? But yeah, it was interesting. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider liking, subscribing, doing all of those fancy things. I would really appreciate it, and I would love to have you along with this journey of mine. And yeah, that is basically it. I am a bit all over the place in this one, I do apologize. But yeah, if you did enjoy, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys again next time. Bye!